Well, if you haven't played Cyberpunk Red yet, I'm not quite sure what you're doing.
Hello and welcome to Every Edition, the tabletop RPG talk show. I'm John.
I'm Jesse.
Today we are going to loot the body and take a look at The Toxic Wood, which is a zine adventure hex crawl for old school essentials.
And on our random encounter today, we're talking about the Cyberpunk Red Jumpstart Kit. We finally got a chance to play it, and I've been waiting forever to talk about it, and I can't wait to talk about it.
Yep, and spoiler, I loved it. I don't know about... but,
it was really good.
So looking forward to that. And of course, we'll have our morale check where we take a look at the tabletop industry and news with role-playing games and whatnot. But first, Jesse, what is new?
Well, we were interviewed for the first time, which was an interesting experience. Xavier over at Aspiring Heroes podcast liked our podcast and wanted to learn more about Every Edition and sort of where we came from. That was a super awesome experience. It's I believe audio only. We didn't do any video recording, but it was super fun. It was really good to talk to Xavier, and we'll leave a link down in the description for a link to his podcast.
We talked more about our process and Every Edition, the show, than we've ever talked about it on the show.
Yeah, very process and sort of back end heavy.
So if you care about that, go for it. And thanks to Xavier and Aspiring Heroes for doing that. Mm-hmm. That was pretty awesome. Just got asked out of the blue.
Yeah, so, yeah. It was fun.
Yeah, it was fun.
So John, what's new?
Well, so speaking of our process, we just celebrated our 1 year anniversary as a podcast, which is really great. And Jesse and I are starting to talk about ways to kind of take Every Edition to the next level, to try some new things, to play around with the format a little bit. If you have any suggestions, drop a comment or send us a note at everyeditionrpg@gmail.com. One of the latest things that I've been experimenting with is YouTube Shorts.
Yes.
So little bite-sized pieces of funny stuff and trying to find moments where Jesse is laughing.
Owlbear controversy.
Owlbear controversy. That's the winner right now so far. So if you're listening to this and you have 5 extra minutes, go on over to YouTube and check out our shorts. You can watch them all in a row. Mm-hmm. Make sure to give it a like and a thumbs up. It really does help, and it exposes a lot of people to the show. So it really is starting to build some momentum for us, and so help us out. And like you always do, we really appreciate it.
It's time for a morale check. Our morale checks are where we take a look at news of the week and news of the time in the RPG world and our industry. Adjacent, kind of, to the RPG world, latest news from Magic the Gathering, which is coming up on its 30th year anniversary. So D&D is almost at 50. Magic is almost at 30. Wizards of the Coast released some news as to what they're releasing for the 30th anniversary, and it's sort of caused a major storm online.
Okay.
As most things do, more so than anything else that they've ever done, though. They're releasing a bunch of cards from Magic the Gathering's history, from the 30 years of history, and making them non-tournament legal. They're reprinting them, and they're putting them in their own little special packs.
Okay.
Which sounds kind of okay, whatever, until you realize that they're random, so you're not guaranteed any amount of them. And each pack is the equivalent of $250.
Each pack?
Each pack. So you on their website would have to buy a set of these, which is 4 packs, for $1,000. So each pack is $250.
No.
And they're not even real cards. They're fake cards.
Yeah, they don't have the back that all the Magic cards have, right?
Yeah, they have a different back. So they reprinted the front, and they're reprinting iconic cards like the Dual Lands and Black Lotus and all these, iconic cards from history, but you can't use them anywhere, and they're fake. They're essentially fake.
I mean, Wizards of the Coast is known for cash grabs, but this is next level.
It is next level. And I'm wondering if, because there was such a backlash, they sort of set the price that high, expecting to come down and be like, oh, look at us. We lowered the price because you asked.
Right.
Because $1,000 for this. And like people were running like simulations online.
Yeah.
And to get a full set, people were spending an equivalent of like $22,000 because it's randomized.
Wow.
Which is
this
insane.
is a full-blown kerfuffle.
Yes, this is a kerfuffle. I can't begin to imagine what they're thinking.
Yeah.
Like I had my grievances with one D&D, but I can kind of get behind a lot of the decisions that are made there.
Sure.
Especially when it comes to like business decisions and whatnot. But
well,
when it
we
comes
don't
to
know.
this, yeah, and most things we just don't know.
Right.
But this is just like actually just asinine, and I don't understand why.
Yeah. You know what magic cards with a fake back are actually valued at, or what,
Zero.
What you can do with them. Yeah. Nothing.
There's some in it that are reprints of cards that are like a $2 card.
Okay.
And it's like, why would I want to spend $250 to get a fake version of this $2 card?
Right.
It's insane.
Yeah. So in other news, Renegade Games is coming out with a second hardcover for the G.I. Joe role-playing game. This is going to be a hardcover adventure book called Operation Cold Iron. And it picks up right from where the Emerald Oubliette left off. That's the adventure that comes with the GM screen. So it's a 4-part adventure. It takes characters from levels 3 to 6. The Emerald Oubliette takes you from 1 to 2. So G.I. Joe's getting the most support so far, it looks like. It's getting the first expansion release even before the Power Rangers, which was the first game to come out. Transformers just dropped. We're still waiting for My Little Pony.
This is the Essence 20 system?
This is the Essence 20 system from Renegade Games. So Operation Cold Iron, it's up for pre-orders. $45. I'm a sucker. I'll get it.
In 5th edition news, just in time for Halloween, there is a new one-shot up on DrivethruRPG made by first-time creator R. Trevor Smith, named Spooky Manor. It's inspired by a very particular theme park attraction that we shall not name. It's up on RPG, DrivethruRPG. It's $3. Trevor's a good friend.
Yeah.
And we took a look through it, and it seems great. I actually want him to run us through it.
I'm blown away. It's a friend of ours, and he created this when he was sick. He's home from work for a week, and it's fantastic. If you love Disney, if you love 5th edition, like bloop, it just came together. So
it's insane how quick it was too.
Yeah.
And it's seems very fleshed out and very, very good for just a sit down for like 4 or 5 hours and have fun, have like a spooky fun.
So check it out, Spooky Manor, 5th edition, one shot, DrivethruRPG. And finally, coming winter 2023, The Lord of the Rings role-playing by Free League. So this is going to be a re-release of the 5e version of The One Ring, which originally was called Adventures in Middle-earth, and it was put out by Cubicle 7. Adventures in Middle-earth is a series of hardcover books for 5th edition that's long out of print and very collectible and sought after. Thankfully, Free League is putting the game back in print, and so it's going to be available starting with a core book. So if you love The Lord of the Rings and you love 5th edition, oh my gosh, like run, don't walk, right?
Yeah.
We have to wait a year for it to come out, but if you're anxious to get there, right now Free League puts out the One Ring game, which is again originally was released by Cubicle 7, and it's a different system than 5e, but it's getting great reviews, and again back in print thanks to Free League. Cubicle 7, you might know, is that super British role-playing company, and they're so British that they just put out a 5th edition version of Doctor Who called Doctors and Daleks, which I'm wanting to get my hands.
Seems kind of fun.
Yeah, I want to get my hands on that and see how they did that and what the conversion is like. So that Doctors and Daleks, by the way, I think is going to have a 3-book slipcover, similar to the sort of Spelljammer type thing. But anyway, Lord of the Rings, we've got a year and a couple months before it comes out. But don't pay scalper prices for Adventures in Middle-earth. Wait for the Lord of the Rings role-playing from Free League to come out in 1 year.
Are there any upcoming Free League releases that you're looking forward to? I know I'm really, really excited about the Blade Runner game that they're putting out later this year. I think it's coming out later this year.
Yeah, should be soon.
The PDF has been released, and from what I hear, it's really good. There's some qualms that people have had that they're trying to iron out before the official release. But Blade Runner is definitely a setting that I want to play in. And Free League, like when One Ring comes out for 5th edition, like I'm just gonna pick it up. Like I don't have any hesitations when it comes to Free League. Every time I've bought something from them, it's been fantastic. So I'm just gonna keep getting everything that I can from them. So I'm really looking forward to Blade Runner.
I'm looking forward to Cyborg, which is the Cyberpunk Morkborg game. Again, I think it's going to have that hyper art, and art before rules style sort of presentation, which is not to everyone's taste, but I'll check it out. And it kind of fits with our discussion today about Cyberpunk Red.
Yes. Whenever that comes out, we're definitely going to try it.
Yeah.
And talk about it. So let us know in the comments down below, or drop us a line at everyeditionrpg@gmail.com. You can also find all of our links at everyeditionrpg.com, where we have links to Facebook, Instagram, our YouTube, where we have YouTube Shorts now, Spotify, Apple Podcast, merch, all that good stuff.
You're an owlbear superstar.
Owlbear. Someone eventually is going to comment and we're going to get into it. Like, oh, you shouldn't let people turn into an owlbear. And I'll be like, why don't you want people to have fun?
All right, it's time for a random encounter. Today's random encounter, we are talking about the Cyberpunk Red Jumpstart Kit. We have been teasing this for a long time, and we finally brought it to the table. And we have had our play experience with The Apartment, which is the introductory adventure that comes with the Jumpstart Kit. And so today what we're going to do is we're going to have a discussion of Cyberpunk Red in general. That's going to be spoiler free. And we'll talk about the Jumpstart Kit, and we'll talk about the game, and we'll talk about the world. And then we're going to have a spoiler-full exploration of the adventure, The Apartment, which comes with the Jumpstart Kit. And so we'll be very clear when we're switching gears. So if you want to skip ahead or jump over the section that's going to be spoiler filled, we'll be clear about when we get there. But we're starting right now, spoiler-free, talking about Cyberpunk Red. So Jesse, you've been wanting to play this.
It's been like 2 years.
Yeah, for as long as we've been doing every edition, and even before that. So, talk to me a little bit about your desire to play Cyberpunk and all of that, and how we ended up bringing it to the table.
So I had never played Cyberpunk 2013 or Cyberpunk 2020,
right?
The original sort of iterations of the game, and the video game for Cyberpunk 2077 came out, and that really got me into the genre. Like, I'd have always been a fan of like Ghost in the Shell, Akira, Blade Runner, that sort of high-tech, low-life, futuristic atmosphere.
Yeah.
But Cyberpunk really sort of solidified my interest in this type of game.
And so you played 2077?
Yes.
The video game? Okay.
So I played that before we had ever touched the Jumpstart Kit.
Okay.
And there's some other games like Shadowrun that really hit on this sort of aesthetic too. Shadowrun has low magic,
right?
Which I think is honestly, if I were to make a game in this sort of setting, I would want low magic and like elves and orcs and things like that.
Yeah.
But this is very much like an alternate timeline to our current timeline. So there's no magic. There's just like heavy weaponry and cybernetic upgrades that make you sort of superhuman. So this came out in 2020. I was super pumped about it. I got all the PDFs and everything. And then later, because of COVID stuff, you couldn't really get the Jumpstart Kit in person. We ended up being able to pick them up. I immediately devoured everything that I could about it. And it's taken like a year or so for us to finally squeeze in some time with our regular group to play it. But I'm so glad that we played it. And just as sort of like a side quick, I had said when we played the Alien RPG that's a type of game that I would want to continue playing. And I've since found out that it's really Free League's like D6 system that I appreciate more than the game. So I'm more interested in that system. Cyberpunk Red is a setting that I really want to bring groups through. And, the system's really great. The lore's really great. I think the combat was really fun. I think everybody had a good time.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned how much you love the setting. I think that the thing about Cyberpunk Red for me, this is one of the places where like we're almost role reversed. I'm a total noob when it comes to Cyberpunk Red. And you have a lot more enthusiasm and interest and knowledge from video games and other media and stuff. And so one of the things that threw me off a little bit in our exploration of this is the term cyberpunk is like a generic term for a genre, right? Of like science fiction fantasy. But in this context, when you're talking about Cyberpunk Red or Cyberpunk 2020 or Cyberpunk 2077, it is a very specific IP. It's a very specific world and setting and story, and it's rich and it's filled with lore. And that to me, as somebody who didn't know anything about it, I never played Cyberpunk 2020 when it came out in I think it was 1988.
Yeah, late 80s
when it first came out. I never played it back in the 80s or 90s. I knew it was around and stuff, but I was more familiar with sort of the general term.
Yeah.
Right. And so when I picked up the Jumpstart Kit and I started reading it, I was like, wow, this is so filled with lore. This is
very heavy with lore.
There's been a lot of world building here. There's a lot to catch up on. So going into it, that was simultaneously impressive, and also it felt like a hurdle for me. Very like I was daunting. I don't, it's easy enough for me to just sort of think, yeah, this is generic, and I'm just going to be playing a cybernetic human in the near future. And that's how I approached it. I mean, just full disclosure, I didn't read up on the lore or anything like that. And it worked just fine. But the rich thing about this is there is a lot of lore.
Yes.
If that's your bag too.
And when this first came out, this was the only product for Cyberpunk Red, which takes place in the year 2045.
Okay.
Which is, 25 years after the previous one.
Right.
So it does have some catching up to do lore-wise on what's going on with the world and what's happening since the fallout of 2020. And the actual story events that happened there that are canon. So
it's a prequel then too to the video game.
Yes,
right?
It's a prequel to the video game.
Okay.
And also the Netflix anime that just dropped like a month ago.
Okay.
So you've got this that came out in 2020, way before the core rulebook. But this gave you so much of the actual rule set as well as all of the lore. Basically, this is like if every starter set for every RPG looked like this going forward, they would sell massively. It is so good. It has all the information that you need: character creation, character sheets like pre-generated characters, dice. It's got the little stands of characters. It's got maps.
Yep.
It's got the world book. It's got the adventure. It's got so much. But that's also because they didn't have the rule book ready to go when this dropped.
Yeah, high quality starter kit. You're going to get everything you need. You're going to get characters. You're going to get a world book. You're going to get an adventure. You're going to get essentially the quick start rules, pawns.
Yeah, pawns.
Amazing dice.
Right? The dice are sweet.
The dice are so sweet. So it's a great set. I would say maybe the only company that consistently makes a better starter set might be Paizo. Like,
sure.
To me, their Starfinder. Their Starfinder was the starter kit was just amazing and so filled with stuff. But this is right up there, up there.
So I talked a little bit about the Alien RPG, and I kind of always mention when we're going through new games how easy something is to pick up and how easy something is for a DM or for a player.
Yeah.
And when you're talking about different systems, like this uses its own system. Right. This is unique to Cyberpunk. Uses a D10 and a D6 system. Your D10 is for everything apart from weapon damage. D6s are for weapon damage. And it's very clear next to the weapons, how many dice you're supposed to use and whatnot, and all that's on like your character sheet. But the D10 system is super, super simple, and it took me a good while to figure out exactly how simple it is, because in the rulebook it's not like incredibly clear. It's essentially the die roll, the skill that you're trying to use, and then the skill or attribute that skill uses.
Okay.
So if you want to try to tackle somebody, you would roll a d10, add your tackle number for your skill, and then add your strength or whatever.
Okay.
And every roll is those three things against the enemy's three things. And then after that, you just deal your d6 damage.
Yeah, it seemed like the D10 just basically replaced, the D20 in 5th edition or most role-playing games. And yeah, you were adding the same sort of modifiers and you were going against a difficulty number. So it wasn't a big break. I mean, just swap your D20 with a D10 and off and running.
I will say I did use the Cyberpunk Red DM screen, and that has it's slightly taller than a normal DM screen. It has so much information on it that's like quick information that you would need, like a difficulty modifier for X event, and it shows you a table of, oh, this is a hard one, this is an impossible one, this is an easy one, and there's tons of quick reference tables on it. And kind of looking at a D&D one here, like there wasn't a lot of art on the inside, it was just all information. And the D&D ones tend to have a lot of fluff and a lot of artwork.
So you would recommend getting the GM screen?
The GM screen was like particularly helpful, especially when we're sitting at a table. And I think we had 2 Jumpstart kits, so we could pass around the rulebook, but not having to flip back and forth on some of the pages was so good. So earlier, John, you had said that you were coming into Cyberpunk Red with sort of a fresh palette, with no prior knowledge of the world or anything like that. I think that's a majority of people are coming into the game like that. They're either having played the video game, seen the anime maybe, or they see it on the shelf and they just kind of want to try it. I think this game and the rule set really help you in that situation. Like, there's like a 40-page world book that you can read to catch up on the lore, but I don't think that it's necessary at all. As long as you understand the simple premise of cyberpunk high-tech lowlife, you could sort of get it. If you look at some pictures, like some of the art that's in the world book or whatever, you can really get a sense. And as long as you're like a good improv GM or you're good at sort of expanding on things, I think you can get by pretty easily, even as a player. But it does have, I think in the beginning, there's like a slang terminology page, which is really cool. Getting used to some of the words there and starting to like throw those out, and eventually by the end of the session, everybody's kind of using them. You can definitely read up on the lore and get everybody into the setting and role playing a little bit more, because it is like the combat happens and is pretty firefighty, but then when you're out of combat, you're role playing a lot,
right? And
the more you have in your arsenal as a GM when it comes to like terms and setting pieces, it really helps. Yeah,
and the role playing was fun. I mean, I had in the back of my mind, I was thinking sort of like Escape from New York, John Carpenter,
yes.
And understanding that it was a gritty, violent city future, right?
Yeah, if you've seen Blade Runner, even the original Blade Runner, it's essentially that.
The one thing I would note about the game experience, it did seem like combat's pretty deadly.
Yes.
So that was different, from like the sort of like soaking of damage and a trading of blows that you have in Dungeons and Dragons. Cyberpunk, like true to life, you can get shot once and your character's dead.
Yeah.
Right.
Just like that.
So it was, it was definitely people were thoughtful about combat, where they were positioning their characters, where they were positioning their, where they were shooting, who they were going after. It lent itself to a little bit more, I think it felt like smarter combat because it was deadly.
And I think because of that, and there's a huge community online of people who have made battle maps. I think battle maps and minis, they're not essential, but I think they really, really help when it comes to combat. And if you just do theater of the mind, you might run into some problems of like, oh no, that guy's over there under some cover, and it gets confusing.
All right, so now we're at the part of our discussion here where we want to get spoilery. So we are going to talk now about The Apartment, and that's the adventure that comes with the Cyberpunk Red Jumpstart Kit.
Yes.
So spoilers ahead. Here we go. Jesse, what was it like prepping The Apartment, and how did it run in terms of the overall, how you anticipated it playing out?
I continue to liken this to Alien RPG. The Alien RPG starter set took a long time and a lot of careful prep to make it sort of seamless and with as little hassle during gameplay as possible. I think it's somewhat similar with Cyberpunk Red. If you have the GM screen, it really helps this process. Because if you can point to a spot and you're like, okay, when I need to know what difficulty, I need to look there. You don't need to remember numbers or anything like that. So you can focus more of your prep time on the actual adventure or the lore of the game. I think the longer you spend prepping, the better of a time your group is going to have. Can you get by with just reading the adventure and not really knowing much of the lore? Yes. But I took a couple hours a day reading through the book. I maybe read through it twice, just honestly, looking at the combat rules and the actual apartment adventure. I was trying to figure out, how I wanted the flow of everything to go. As we'll talk about in just a sec, the apartment is not a linear type of adventure.
Okay.
So there is a little bit more prep involved because you have to be prepared for things to go a different way than what you might have originally thought.
Okay.
So there is a little bit more prep than a normal sort of starter kit, but I think the more prep you do, the better your experience is going to be.
Okay. So the general story of The Apartment, at least from the player's perspective, was we were a group of cyberpunks that
mercenaries,
were mercenaries living in an apartment building together in the wrong side of the tracks, the bad part of town. And we were getting together for our weekly game night, right? Instead of poker, we ended up playing. We played Uno, right? Which
that was fun.
It was fun.
You can easily gloss over that, but I was like, I kind of want everybody to like play a game within a game. Yeah. So we played Uno.
Well, we were teasing you that you just really wanted to play Uno, and so you tricked us by working it into the game of Cyberpunk. But
we're not playing Cyberpunk. We're playing Uno.
We're playing Uno as Cyberpunk characters.
Yeah.
So we did that. That was fun and different. Like that was my first exposure to Cyberpunk was playing Uno. What are you going to
out of left field?
Yeah, kind of out of left field. But after that, then we sort of started to notice that there were some suits that were paying attention to our building and that were sort of like appraising it and eyeing it up and taking pictures and measurements and things like that
where they shouldn't be,
right? And so the super of the building,
yes,
right?
One of the players was actually like the owner of the building,
right? Went out and sort of said, "Hey, what are you doing?" And that went south.
Yeah, it went south real fast,
pretty quickly. And it was clear that they were planning on demolishing the building to build a new high-rise of some kind,
some corporate building,
some new corporate building. So whether you realize this or not, it was actually the plot of Breakin' 2 Electric Boogaloo. So it's true. In that movie, they have a community center, and they love this place, and it's where all the kids come to learn to dance and stuff like that. Sure. And there's some corporate suits that are planning to tear it down to build a shopping mall, right? And so I immediately was like, I know this plot. Nice, I was like, I know what's going on here. I know what we got to do. And by the way, if you've never seen Breakin' 2, it's a joy. Like it is just so much fun. There's the character Ozone. Just check it out. You'll thank me later. But anyway, that was what I was thinking about the whole time. Sure. I was like, I'm playing Uno, and now I'm in Breakin' 2. Okay.
What is this Cyberpunk?
What is this Cyberpunk Red thing? So.
So you spend a good portion of the beginning trying to set up attachments to a bunch of people at the apartment. There's a good couple pages in the rule book that say, like, hey, these are all the NPCs. These are their sort of motivations. Everybody loosely trusts each other here. You spend some time in the beginning of the adventure as a GM trying to get people to connect with them. That way, if things do go south, maybe one of them dies, and that sparks a little bit more from the players, or maybe you want to protect them a little bit more. It's an interesting prep style, having to learn like 10 different NPCs, and then act them all out.
there was a woman that had real animals, which was like a big deal in this world, right? They weren't cloned and they weren't robotic or animatronic or anything like that. They were real, naturally born lizards and stuff.
Yeah, it was like a lizard, a bird, and a tortoise. Because like in this world, there had been a bunch of nuclear fallout, and because of overpopulation and things like that, natural animals have become extinct, or at least very, very difficult to find. And she had somehow gotten a hold of legitimate real animals, and that was like a big thing. Like, protect the animals, or maybe you want to steal them because you're a mercenary and you want money, so you can like sell them.
I'm pretty sure some of our characters wanted to steal them.
Yeah, a couple people wanted to steal them for themselves. That's another sort of like mantra of Cyberpunk. Like, you literally, like, you can't trust anybody,
right?
Because even your party members are only there because you've all been hired for the same job.
Yeah. Well, it's a survival game, right?
Yes.
The one thing I did read in terms of like prep for myself to be a player was, there's no good or evil. There's just survival. Like that's sort of the tone of the world. So if you wanted to steal the lizards, that was okay. Like, I
don't know exactly where that would have gone,
right?
Because that wasn't in the prep process, but
sure,
we would have figured it out.
Yeah.
So the suits come in, you deal with them, and then you everything's sort of calm, and then an attack happens, sort of like a raid, and there's a bunch of sort of low-life security guards, or low-level security guards that you have to deal with as they're like trying to take over your building. And across the street there is a hired mercenary that was hired by the corporation that's trying to take down your building to take you guys out, which was an interesting thing. One of our players noticed this person and quickly got out of dodge of like a sniper attack, and that bad guy ended up being sort of like the big boss because he's the most like a player character, and eventually was dealt with. And sort of when that's dealt with, everything's hunky-dory, everything goes back to normal. But it is sort of this like tiny skirmish and then a big raid on the building, and if you survive, cool, the building stays. If you don't, the building gets demolished.
Right. It was a great way to bring a party together. It was, I think if you pull back the curtain, that's what this was all about, was giving you a starting place and a way to make sense for your characters, caring about each other and working together. So it did a really, really solid job of establishing why you were a party.
Yes.
And you could start from nothing, right? You could start from not knowing each other and not having connections, or having real loose connections. You have that game experience where you meet each other, you're meeting the NPCs, and then you're bonded through trauma.
Yep.
And then you're off and run. Like it did. I'm ready for part 2.
Yes.
You know what I mean? It does a really good job of wetting the whistle and making you want to do it again. Right.
Yeah. It wasn't too long of a session.
No.
And I think that's because there was only there was a small combat, a bunch of RP, and then a medium combat.
Yep.
And I think that's really all you need, really, in a starter set. Enough to get you interested in the game, and then push that beyond to like a campaign or another one shot or something like that. And something that I didn't touch on before, the Jumpstart Kit does come with, because they didn't have the core rulebook out in time, it comes with a scream sheet. So a scream sheet in Cyberpunk Red is essentially a one-page one-shot. It's got, on the front, it's got like a bunch of lore, like it's a sort of like a newspaper article kind of. And on the back, it's got a mission that you can grab all your players and send them out as mercenaries to do this mission. And it's got what enemies you would need, what special items you may get or need, and then it sort of just lets you decide how you want to approach taking care of that. So like if our group did one of them, we would have a local fixer would get in contact with us and hire us for this job, and then I would say, hey, you know, you go from the apartment that you guys own and already have to this job. And I think there's like 6 of them in there. So there's a good amount of one-shots that you can keep everybody going through. And of course there's character creation in it. So in case you don't like the character that you're playing, you can just roll up a new character if one dies or whatever.
And all that's in the Jumpstart Kit?
It's all in the Jumpstart Kit.
Wow, cool.
And beyond that, R. Talsorian has put out basically every month a free resource of some sort on their website for Cyberpunk Red since the launch of the game. So more scream sheets are always coming out, battle maps, addendums to rules and the books and whatnot. A ton of free resources are online, as well as some of the supplementary stuff like the GM screen and whatnot.
All right, so let's get into final thoughts here about Cyberpunk Red and the the Jumpstart Kit and the adventure The Apartment. So if you're rejoining us, we're not going to be spoilery anymore.
Yes.
Just some final thoughts here. I really enjoyed our experience with Cyberpunk Red. I want to play it again.
Yes.
The bar to entry for a player seemed pretty low.
Yeah, it's very low.
I didn't feel like I had a whole lot of rules to learn or anything like that from a player's perspective.
Especially because the character sheets are, the pre-gen characters are already ready to go.
Yep.
And you just roll up whatever background you want.
Yep. More and more, and I think it's because I'm enjoying playing lots of different games and exploring tabletop role-playing and becoming more familiar with the variety that's out there. I really love pre-generated characters.
Yeah.
Like I know it almost feels like this is weird, but it almost feels like a burden to create a character. And
interesting.
I just want to play.
Yeah, you just want to play.
I just want to play. I'm not. I know for most people, they're playing tabletop role-playing games because they want to create a character and they want to develop their character and they want that person to grow. And blossom, and that's fine. I'm not there though right now. Like I just want to play, and so I want a pre-gen character. I want to hit the table and roll some dice.
Sure.
And maybe it's because I'm in my 30th year of playing here that character creation isn't as exciting. I guess
Sure.
I'm more excited by new games. Well, this was a new game for me. It was pretty great.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I liked the prep process. I got to explore a lot of the world pre the knowledge that I had because, the video game takes place like 30 years after this. So I got to see exactly where the world was at the time and, use some of the same lingo and some of the same setting drops. I thought it was really fun. I think everybody at the table really had a good time.
Yeah, we did.
And I was sort of hesitant about this because some of the players there had really only played like typical fantasy type games. And I was like, oh, how are they going to feel about this like mercenary, like brutal type game? And they loved it. And they were really getting into like the style of the game. Like one of them was playing a rocker boy, which is essentially a bard.
Yep.
And she was like really getting into like making music her thing and incorporating that into her role play and her combat. And that was really interesting to see. And I really, really want to play more of this with those characters or with other characters because of the extra one shots that come in the Jumpstart Kit. I really think there's some legs to this.
Well, I think the scream sheets, I mean, you mentioned the ones that come free with it and that then there are more available for free on PDF. And I mean, that's a single sheet, ready to rock, like that's the way to go.
That's where a lot of RPGs are going now.
That's great.
Interesting.
That's great. Yeah, you get 2 or 3 hours of play, which is what everybody wants. You pad that out with a 4-hour night because you're going to be kibitzing and eating pretzels and stuff, and you're good to go. So it's a smart system. It's smartly laid out. It's readily available, and do it.
Yeah, I think this is of all of the starter kits, I would say this is number one. Maybe Alien and this are tied for number one. But if I had to say pick one, I don't think that I could because they're both so great. And this one was just fantastic, and I can't wait to play more.
Let us know what you think. Have you played Cyberpunk Red? What's your experience been like? Or have you played other dark future,
like Shadowrun or whatever.
Yeah, like Shadowrun or Cyborg or any games like that. Let us know. Drop us a comment or send us a note. everyeditionrpg@gmail.com. You can also find links to all of our socials at everyeditionrpg.com. There we've got links to Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. We've also got links to the podcast on Apple and Spotify. And of course, we are on YouTube and now YouTube Shorts.
Yes.
So like, subscribe. Thanks. We really appreciate it.
It's time to loot the body. On today's Loot the Body, we are looking at the RPG zine, The Toxic Wood by Lazy Lich.
Yes, we are.
This looks like an interesting... I really like the art style in this. I'm very much... When it comes to like zines and small format and things like this, I'm very much a... If you've got really awesome art style, I'm gonna pick it up and I'm gonna grab it. More so than like maybe a rule system or whatever. Yeah.
So there were, full disclosure here, everybody, there were other things competing for the Loot the Body spot this week, and I forced this one to the front because I am so impressed. I don't know who Lazy Lich is, but this is a zine project. It's for Old School Essentials. It's a hex crawl adventure. So it's right in the pocket of everything I'm looking for right now. So I'm hot on hex crawls.
Yes, hex crawls are
right?
definitely
I'm
big.
hot on Old School Essentials, and I love me some zines. So this is all of those things all in one package. The thing that I like about this is it does a quick job of developing a unique and interesting setting that I want to explore as the dungeon master, and I can't wait to bring this to the table. The only thing it's lacking, I wish it had pre-generated characters because I just want to play it again.
Essential characters are pretty quick to roll.
They are. They're pretty quick. They're pretty quick to roll. And I do think, like I said, I'm weird. I think when it comes to that, I think most people actually do prefer to create their own character and do that sort of thing. So not a knock against this, but actually anytime anybody asks me about their zine project or their adventure project and like what should they do or what should they add, I always say pre-gens. Right? I was so glad to see Dark Places and Demogorgons added pre-generated characters as a stretch goal. Good work. But anyway, back to the Toxic Wood. It's the setting here, right? It's all about the setting. So there's this wood, right? That is toxic.
Whoa.
Okay, it is right. Great title. It's this wood that's filled with this poisonous air, this poisonous gas, right? And it's the gas is coming up from a geyser, right? Somewhere in the middle of the woods. Okay, you're hired on a rescue mission by a group of wizards, and you are given a magic orb that will protect your party. It's like a 20-foot radius or something like that protects you from the noxious gas. And so that you can walk through this woods and do your exploration, do your hex crawl with this magic item. It means you're obviously really worried about this magic item.
Yeah, you have to keep it safe.
You got to keep it safe, right? It is literally like you're going to be moving further and further away from safety. And so it has that sort of like underwater exploration kind of feel, sure. Right? Or outer space, like spacesuit kind of thing, but in a fantasy trope. The other thing, the wizards also give everybody a necklace that will only last for like 1 or 2 days or something like that, but also would be an individual way to
just in case.
As a fail safe. But of course, you're going to explore more than like 1 or 2 or 3 days or whatever out.
It's X-crawl, so
and so
going.
it's pretty. It creates setting and tension and resource management and all that good stuff that I think makes for a really great game. So I can't wait to bring this to the table.
It seems like an interesting, from like a player's point of view, a way to get the party to sort of like go where one person wants to go or whatever. Like you designate, oh, I'm the orb carrier.
Right.
And like wherever they want to go is where the party goes.
Yep.
You can't really, like you maybe have some debates about, oh, should we turn left or right at this crossroad?
Yep.
Because you can only pick one. You can't split the party because you're going to be...
No, you absolutely can't split the party, right?
Yeah.
You can't, like, it's not even an option.
Yeah.
Which I love. Again, they're like, you don't want to split the party anyway.
Yeah.
Right? But it gives you a mechanic for, like, why you...
A reasoning.
Yeah, a reason why you can't. So it's really, I love the setting. It grabbed me right away. It's available right now on DrivethruRPG, and I would recommend getting it on DrivethruRPG because it has PDFs of the maps. Right. So you can have it comes with then a blank hex map, a hex map that shows you with the types of foliage and environment sort of filled in, and then a DM version that also shows you like which are the special hexes with special encounters and stuff like that.
Sure.
And so you can have give a blank one to your characters that they can fill out themselves, or you could give them the one that would be like if they were handed a map by the wizards, what that would look like. And then there's that third map that really has all the bells and whistles and all the places to explore that the player characters wouldn't necessarily know about. So check this out on DrivethruRPG, please. I couldn't believe how good this was. This was a Zemo project, I'm pretty sure. I'm not familiar with Lazy Lich, but I'm impressed. Love this adventure. And like I said, can't wait to bring it to the table. So check it out on DrivethruRPG. I don't know that you can still get the physical. I think that may have been just the Kickstarter thing, and then it's poof gone. So I love it. Toxic Woods, can't recommend it enough.
Well, if you haven't played Cyberpunk Red yet, I'm not quite sure what you're doing. But hopefully you got some useful information from our random encounter today. I know when I was prepping for the game, the only online resources that I could have were actually like real plays with Mike Pondsmith, the creator of the game, which was good because, you have the creator of the game, like kind of playing you through the game. But there wasn't really much beyond a sort of general review of a spoiler-free Jumpstart Kit. So I hope it was helpful and gave you another resource. If you haven't played it, or if you maybe think somebody at your party would, definitely pick it up. I think that it would be a really fun thing for people to explore, and I definitely want more people playing in this setting.
Yeah. And Jesse and I have a lot of ideas moving forward into year 2 for every edition. So strap in, get ready. It's going to be...
this year was the year of sci-fi stuff. We've still got Starfinder to do, which I think is what we're going to do next.
That's what we'll do next, yep.
And then we're going to have to figure out something for next year.
Yeah,
for year 2.
A new theme.
Maybe fantasy or like everything free league. Just make sure we play
everything free league. Actually, that's not a bad... Or I'm kind of in the mood for... noir.
Like horror noir.
Horror and noir. So that would be
Call of Cthulhu.
Vaesen and Call of Cthulhu and some of the stuff that Lurking Fears does. Maybe I could get into the horror.
Every edition Lurking Fears. Soon,
collab. You never know.
Well, if you enjoyed this, or if you have any comments or anything like that you want to say, hey, we really like this year, or hey, you've been doing this wrong the entire year, fix this. Let us know in the comments down below, or drop us a line over at everyeditionrpg@gmail.com. You can also find links to all of our socials at everyeditionrpg.com, including links to Spotify and Apple Podcasts for the audio version, or YouTube for the visual version, and all of our socials like Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and all that.
Thanks for listening, everybody. We'll see you next time.
Yeah, it's been a great year, and here's to another year. Thanks for watching.
Off we go.